Hello and welcome to our lesson where we learn about substitution variables. These are mostly used during the runtime and in SQL scripts. Those variables can be also predefined inside that SQL script. And important thing to remember is that they can replace any part of a query, not just one part in the where clause or in the order by clause. Let's jump straight ahead to some examples. And we're going to do that both in SQL Plus and SQL Developer, and everything will be much clearer. So I'm connected on my HR schema, and I prepared a simple query where I fetch data from my employees table. And the where clause consists only of employee ID and a variable, which is emp ID, and it is with the prefix ampersand. This is a sign which let us know that emp ID is a substitute variable. So when I try to execute this query, I'm going to be prompted to enter the value for emp ID. So let's execute this. And as we can see, SQL Developer asks us to enter a value for emp ID. So let's enter, for example, 200. I know that this employee ID exists, and we're going to get one value returned. Very simple. Let's try to execute this query from SQL Plus. So I'm going to connect on SQL Plus from command prompt, and my username is hr@xepdb1, and my password is hr as set up previously. So let's copy that query, complete one, and let's paste it and execute. As we can see, again, we have to enter value for emp ID. Again, let's enter 200. We can see the old value has not been entered. It is only the substitute value, and the new one is 200. And we can see we got back one record returned. This is not nicely formatted, so additional knowledge, we can set the line size to a higher value so it is not wrapped in a smaller frame. We set that as set line size, for example, 250. So if I would execute this query again, let's execute it. Again, 200. We can see now it's much more nicely formatted. Let's clear this screen with the command clear screen. A thing to remember is for the VARCHARs. If I would like to fetch some data, for example, by last name, so last name, let's just rename the substitute variable. It will be just ln. And for example, if I want to fetch all that have last name Whalen, let's try it out. We're gonna get an error over here because this is an invalid identifier. So we have to wrap this in single quotes so that SQL engine can recognize this is a varchar. Let's try it again. We're gonna enter Whalen, and we can see this works just fine now. As I said, a substitute variable can replace any part of a query, completely any part. And when I say as any part, I mean that any value that we enter as a substitute variable, it concatenates into a query. So for example, if we're gonna fetch again where the last name is Valen, let's just put it like that, and we're gonna replace the all or the star, not to fetch all of the columns, let's make it as a substitute variable. Let's just name it columns, right? So now if I enter like employee ID, we're gonna get employee IDs fetched where the last name is Valen from the employees table, right? However, I can try this again, and let's, for example, again, enter employee ID, and for example, also the last name and the first name. We can see we got multiple columns now returned, as this query has been replaced as employee ID, last name, and the first name. So this was our query at the runtime. We can see the same results. Let's go to our first example. As I said, the substitute variables can be also predefined. We define them with the define keyword. So if I want to define EMP-ID, I would write EMP-ID equals 200. And let's execute this part. Now the EMP-ID has set up the value for 200, and the engine won't ask us again for the EMP-ID at runtime. Let's try it out. As we can see, we got our results right away. To check which variables are set up or defined, we just write the keyword define and execute it. We can see our EMP-ID is set up as 200 at the moment, right? We can also undefine the EMP-ID. We do that with the undefined keyword and EMP-ID, the name of the substitute variable. Let's execute this one and let's check if it's deleted. And we can see there is no more EMP-ID defined. Very nice. As I mentioned, substitute variables are used in some SQL scripts. So those scripts are just simple SQL files that have some queries inside of it. For example, insert, select, or anything we wish. For our test case, I prepared a simple script just named testscript.skl, right? And I have a couple of lines over there. The prompt keyword just defines what will be outputted. So this is just the output of the script. The prompt and empty field just adds an empty line. And we have a new keyword, which is the accept. The accept keyword will ask us for the substitute variable EMP-ID, and will replace the value that we enter for the VEMP inside of a query. And we're going to be prompted with the enter an employee ID during the runtime. So I have my test script SQL saved, and I'm going to run it from SQL Plus. Let's try it out. Again, I'm in my SQL Plus, and I'm just going to enter at and the location of that SQL script. Let's run it. We can see we got our prompts, right? Script start shows employee details providing its ID, an empty line, and then the accept where we are asked for substitute variable the EMP-ID. And we are prompted enter an employee ID. We're going to enter 200 again. And during the runtime, the VEMP-ID will be replaced with a number 200. And we're going to get results for that query. So let's run it. As we can see, we got our values back. And finally, we are again prompted as this is the end of the script. We could also run this from SQL Developer. So let's try it. Let's clear the output and let's run it. Again, we are prompted enter an employee ID. Let's enter it and we got our results back and the output is the same as in SQL Plus. Very nice. The good thing to remember is the verify keyword, where we define if the output will have the old and the new value. So for example, in this case, our system is defined as verify on, but we're going to shut this down. We're going to write set verify off, right? Let's save this and let's execute again our script. Let's run it. Again, I'm going to provide the same value for employee ID, and we can see old and new values are not entered anymore. Very nice. This is it for this lesson. Try out some examples by yourself. Try to replace different parts of a query with substitute variables and have fun with it. See you in the next one.